Okay, these are cool. These are cool. An identity is an equation that's true for all allowed values of the variable. What they're saying is tangent of any angle is equal to the sine of that angle divided by the cosine of that angle. Okay? And we're going to show you why that is. So use what you know about trigonometric ratios to show that each equation is an identity. Well, we know that tangent, and probably it'd be a good idea for me to inject this little thing in here again. Put it down here on the side. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So we could write that as, we could write that tangent of x is opposite over adjacent, right? Opposite over adjacent. Okay? And that's equal to sine of x, which is opposite over hypotenuse, and I'll write it like this, opposite over hypotenuse, divided by the cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. Writing it like this doesn't actually help a whole lot. So I'm going to write it like this. I'm going to write it like opposite over hypotenuse divided by, like this, adjacent over hypotenuse. That's a better way of writing it. And in fact, I'm going to go even further and say that, remember stay, switch, flip? If you're dividing fractions, the first one stays what it is, opposite over hypotenuse, stay. You switch from division to multiplication, and then you flip the second fraction to its reciprocal, h over a, stay, switch, flip. That's how you turn a division problem into a multiplication problem. Why do I care? Because look what happens. That times that cancels these out, and then when you multiply across, what do you get? You get opposite over adjacent. And oh my gosh, that's exactly what you had for tangent. So if you took the sine of some angle divided by the cosine of that angle, remember the sine of an angle and the cosine of an angle is just numbers that you get when you divide the ratios of the sides, right? If you did the sine of an angle, some number, divided by the cosine of that angle, some number, you would get the exact value that is the tangent of that angle. Interesting. You could actually do that experiment. You could say the tangent of 30 degrees, let's say, and type that into your calculator. What's tangent of 30 degrees? Write that number down, and then do sine of 30 degrees divided by cosine of 30 degrees, and you'll get the same number, no matter what. That's why it's called an identity. So let's do the same thing for the other ones. We'll just move through this pretty quickly, I think. But sine of x. Sine is just opposite over hypotenuse. So that equals cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, times tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. And of course, as before, we can cancel out what's being multiplied together. And what do we get as a result? We get opposite over hypotenuse, which is exactly what sine of x is. So when you take cosine of x times tangent of x and cancel the a on the top and the a on the bottom, you get opposite over hypotenuse. That's what they're talking about. And one more time, let's do it. So for this last one, cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And they say that's equal to the sine of x, sine, opposite over hypotenuse, divided by tangent of x. And instead of writing it as a big fraction, I'm going to just do divided by, like I did before. Tangent of x, tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay? Our stay, switch, flip rule, and by the way, let me just move this out of the way here. I guess I can't move that one piece, sorry about that. Our stay, switch, flip rule says we're going to do, the first one is going to stay what it is, opposite over hypotenuse, stay. Switch, we're going to switch from division to multiplication, and flip, we're going to flip that second fraction to its reciprocal, adjacent over opposite. And then what can we cancel? We can cancel that and that. And what are we left with as a result? Adjacent over hypotenuse, which is exactly what we started with cosine. So these are called identities. The tangent of any angle is the sine of that angle divided by the cosine of that angle. The sine of an angle is equal to the cosine of that angle times the tangent of that angle, and the cosine of any angle is the sine of that angle divided by the tangent of that angle. It'll always work. You always get it. There was the mathematics behind it that explains why.